Hello everyone, in this video, I'll be translating and summarizing the latest Urdu broadcast by Moeed Pirzada to make it accessible for our English-speaking audience. Let's go through the key developments and insights in Moeed Pirzada's words. Before I proceed to the topics of today's podcast, I need to explain a few things and also offer an apology regarding something. The explanation I want to give is this. Since the India-Pakistan war that occurred from May 7th to May 10th, I have been consistently trying to analyze all events and developments in this podcast and video through an internationalist lens. Some people feel that internal issues within Pakistan are not being discussed enough, while others appreciate the international perspective they're receiving. I believe that viewing things from an international perspective gives you a much better understanding of the situation, especially if you also take the initiative to research a few things yourself on Google. I want to help develop this lens for all of you, and for that, I need your ongoing feedback. As you know, I read your comments, respond to them, and even comment myself. In the past few months, there is only one book I've been able to read completely, from introduction to the last page, and that is Francis Fukuyama's Liberalism and Its Discontents. I've tweeted many of its points. In the final chapter, Fukuyama describes how the obstacles to freedom of expression and freedom of thought today are not just government censorship or coercion. A major obstacle is also the thousands of voices on social media, many of which lack substance but still occupy considerable space. Another issue is the creation of fake or misleading content, images and news, which we're all familiar with. Last week, I myself fell victim to such fake news, and I must apologize for it. I referred to a video blog or podcast that appeared on my home screen, supposedly of Jordan Peterson. It was a 29-minute video in which I claimed Peterson praised Indian democracy about 20 times, portrayed India as a victim of Pakistani terrorism, and used very harsh terms to describe Pakistan as a terrorist state. However, many of you pointed out, and rightly so, that this was a deep-fake video with an AI-generated voice of Jordan Peterson, created most likely by an Indian cyber group. Clearly, it wasn't made by any Pakistani agency because its purpose was to defame Pakistan. I apologize for that mistake and assure you I'll be more cautious in the future when quoting sources. As Fukuyama also pointed out, this is a significant global challenge for freedom of expression, the overwhelming presence of fake content. In fact, there's also an AI-generated audio mimicking Denzel Washington's voice, in which India is heavily praised and Pakistan is harshly criticized. From these videos, two things become clear. Indian cyber groups, and possibly Indian state agencies behind them, are trying to influence United States public opinion. By choosing figures like Denzel Washington and Jordan Peterson, whose audience is largely right-of-center, Christian evangelical, the message being sent is, America hasn't been fair to India, and it should stand with India's liberal democracy, not Pakistan, a so-called terrorist state. These groups likely believe that, despite the four-day war, India failed to win the narrative, and Pakistan got the better side of it. This frustrates many Indian commentators. Now, before I move on to other developments, let me remind you, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, please do so. Click the bell icon, turn on notifications, and also join the WhatsApp channel. Links are in the description and pinned tweets. Now, moving forward, let me briefly talk about Imran Khan. Many expect detailed updates about him, but I cannot create news, only analyze what comes forward. At present, Imran Khan's official Twitter account, managed by his PTI media team, still shows only his old Ed messages in English and Urdu. PTI's YouTube channel also has no updates about him. Instead, they're recycling content such as interviews with barrister Shahbaz Akbar and discussions involving Tanveer Ahmad, an American businessman. This shows PTI's media team lacks fresh updates or content. Despite this, some podcasters, including foreigners, speculate that Imran Khan might be released by the court on June 11th. This relates to the Al-Qadir trust case involving £190 million. A few days ago, barrister Salman Safdar, Khan's lawyer, stated the prosecution's case is very weak and that they'll dismantle it within half an hour in court. This has led many to hope for Khan's release post-Eid. Now turning to key developments, the main focus of this vlog, as seen in the thumbnail, is how the poor populations of India and Pakistan, among the poorest globally, are being exploited. The elites of both countries continue to amass dangerous, expensive weapons in the name of nationalism and ego battles, while the common people suffer. Neither India has the capacity to decisively harm Pakistan, nor vice versa. The recent four-day skirmish proved that neither side could achieve its objectives, even if the conflict had lasted longer. This vlog argues that India and Pakistan's selfish elites are enriching countries like China, Israel, and Western arms manufacturers while exploiting their own poor. For example, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari was recently in London with a delegation. At Chatham House, also known as the Royal Institute of International Affairs, he reportedly told British interlocutors that Pakistan was winning the recent war, but still accepted a ceasefire to show restraint. Whether his audience agreed is debatable. In contrast, I watched Dr. Shashi Tharoor's speech at the Council on Foreign Relations in the United States, where he was critical of Pakistan. Yet the questions posed to him were professional and not challenging his narrative. Likely the same happened with Bilawal, who was probably trying to massage egos on behalf of the Pakistani military and elite. Interestingly, Bilawal did raise concerns about India's violations of the Indus Waters Treaty, noting that if India's actions are normalized, no lower riparian country would be safe. However, around the same time, Indian news platform NDTV cited a new report by Pakistan's Indus Waters Treaty Commission. I couldn't find the report myself, but according to NDTV, as of June 5th, water availability in the Indus system for Pakistan was down 13.3% compared to previous years, severely affecting Punjab's crops. What's dangerous is not the drop in water itself, but the gradual, incremental manner in which this new normal is being established. If water availability drops 13% now, it might be 15 to 20% soon, and people will simply adjust. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif recently said Pakistan is implementing water efficiency measures, but that won't solve the larger strategic issue. Indian Prime Minister Modi has publicly stated India will suspend Indus Waters Treaty implementation unless Pakistan stops supporting militancy. Yet behind the scenes, India seems to be building a professional case to renegotiate the treaty, regardless of terrorism. Within the last 24 hours, Indian media published stories referring to tweets by Brahma Shalini, a respected strategic thinker. In his tweets, Shalini referenced his book, arguing that India receives only 19.5% of water from all 6 rivers under the treaty, while Pakistan gets over 80%. This is based on flow data. The eastern rivers, Sutlej, Beas, Ravi, provide 33 million acre-feet annually, while the western rivers, Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, provide 135 million acre-feet, most of which go to Pakistan. This is a dangerous statistical argument being built to renegotiate the treaty. As I've said before, Pakistan can't rely solely on the World Bank or the United States or the European Union. It needs to involve China as an upper riparian, neighbour and major power in a trilateral negotiation with India. Without China, Pakistan cannot succeed. Now, regarding strategy, Pakistan's Water Ministry has written 4 letters to India's Ministry of External Affairs concerning the IWT. But their overall strategy remains unclear. What is clear is that both sides continue investing in weapons. According to Force, a defence-related Indian publication, Germany has offered Pakistan an advanced infrared imaging system called Dashed TET. Indian defence experts believe that the Pakistani missile system is meant as a direct counter to India's BrahMos missile, a missile co-developed by India and Russia. They argue that Ukraine's effective deployment of the German IRIS-T system in its war against Russia's P-800 Onyx missiles is relevant because BrahMos is a derivative of the P-800 Onyx. This, they say, demonstrates that the IRIS-T is a potent threat to India's missile advantage. The Indian defence community is concerned that Germany may sell these IRIS-T systems to Pakistan, or at least has not ruled out the possibility. There are calls within Indian strategic circles urging Germany not to export such technologies to Pakistan. While it is unclear whether Pakistan is currently purchasing or is even able to afford such systems, the rumours, fueled by Israeli publications, have triggered serious attention. An Israeli report also claimed that India's state-owned Hindustan Aeronautics Limited is set to hand over nearly 100 Tejas fighter jets to the Indian Air Force this June, on top of the 40 already delivered. These Tejas jets are multi-role fighters equipped with avionics and radar systems developed in collaboration with Israeli firm Elta, a subsidiary of Israel Aerospace Industries. This highlights ongoing Indo-Israeli defense cooperation, and the irony as it indirectly benefits Israeli defense companies financially, while Israel remains a close ally of countries hostile to Pakistan. On the other side, a Pakistani-affiliated publication claimed that China has generously offered the HQ-19 missile interceptor system to Pakistan, a move described metaphorically as kicking the grave of Hatim Tai, implying an act of extreme generosity in desperate times. According to this narrative, the HQ-19 system is designed to outperform BrahMos in defensive capabilities. What emerges clearly from these developments is a pattern. India is actively reinforcing its air force, while Pakistan is rapidly bolstering its missile defense infrastructure. Absent from both sides is any serious political initiative toward negotiation or diplomacy. Instead, the regional focus remains squarely on the procurement of more and more sophisticated weapons. Meanwhile, within the same 24-hour cycle as Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's speech in London, Pakistan's latest economic survey was released. It paints a sobering picture. The report touches on several aspects: labour markets, health, GDP and more. It reveals that Pakistan has failed to meet its growth targets for 2024 to 2025, although it has managed to control inflation to some extent. Notably, however, there hasn't been a significant increase in consumer prices. Veteran TV anchor Javed Chaudhry controversially stated in a recent viral video that inflation doesn't exist. It's all about affordability. But affordability, when measured as a declining ability to purchase goods like cars, motorcycles, televisions, or even airplane tickets, is effectively inflation. And yes, it extends to essentials like potatoes and tomatoes. The same economic report revealed that over 1 million Pakistanis left the country in search of employment this fiscal year. A large proportion headed to the Middle East, where job conditions and human rights standards remain precarious. Of those, over 400,000 were from Punjab, about 200,000 from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and only 60,000 from Sindh. This disparity is not an indication of better conditions in Sindh, but rather a reflection of the people's diminished capacity even to afford the migration process. When compared regionally, the figures get even more telling. Around 3,000 people each from Azad Kashmir and the former Fatah region, and nearly 8,000 from Islamabad, sought jobs abroad. Even from the vast province of Balochistan, only 5% of the population was able to migrate for work. The economic desperation is palpable. Pakistan's health spending stands at just under 1% of its GDP, around PKR 950 billion. According to a report in the Express Tribune, Pakistan currently has just one doctor for every 750 people. While this is an improvement from before, the misreporting, which originally claimed one doctor per 7.5 million people, reflects the statistical and editorial carelessness that permeates much of Pakistani public discourse. By contrast, India has one physician per roughly 900 people, while Israel has one per 220 to 250. This leads us back to the broader reality. While India and Pakistan continue to amass weapons, their common citizenry continues to struggle economically. Indian commentators on platforms like Twitter and YouTube often claim superiority, calling India a wealthy country that can afford an arms race. In contrast, Pakistan is labelled a beggar nation. But let's, actually examine this claim. According to The Economist, India's middle class defined as those earning $10 or more per day, comprises around 78 million people. Pew Research puts that number closer to 66 million. That's under 6% of India's 1.4 billion population. In contrast, China's middle class stands between 31% and 40%. India's appropriate comparator is China, not Pakistan. India's per capita nominal GDP is approximately $2,200 compared to the UK's over $45,000. While India has surpassed the UK in total GDP size, this is primarily due to population. In terms of purchasing power parity, Indians claim a per capita GDP of $7,000 or more. But these are based on figures calculated by the Indian government itself. These figures, while globally cited, are still subject to, well, national exaggerations. Relative economic metrics tell a different story. For instance, the UK's poverty levels are measured via relative income, typically 60% of the national median. A recent personal experience while travelling in the US from the affluent tri-state area to the south revealed stark disparities in wealth, even within the world's richest nation. This kind of relative poverty, visible in housing, transportation and general living standards, is comparable to what South Asia experiences across regions. In conclusion, while India and Pakistan remain preoccupied with expanding their weapons arsenals, courting suppliers from China, Israel and the West, the lived realities of their people tell a different story. Poverty, healthcare, employment and affordability are the true battlefields. On a related global note, the second round of United States-China trade negotiations has begun in London. America is pressuring China to resume its supply of rare earth metals, which have been withheld for over 6 weeks, crippling American auto, aerospace and tech sectors. Former President Donald Trump has even reportedly intervened personally. China's demands include easing student visa restrictions, restoring access to advanced chip technologies, particularly from NVIDIA, and reopening mid-market consumer tech to Chinese firms. It is likely that the United States will have to concede on several of these points. In a separate legal development, California Governor Gavin Newsom and the State Attorney General have filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump for deploying the National Guard without state approval, calling it a violation of the United States Constitution's 10th Amendment. Trump claims he acted in response to violent scenes on television. Local leaders, however, insist the situation was under control. That wraps up our translation of Moeed Pirzada's video. I hope this English version helped you understand his message better. Please like, share and subscribe to Awami Lens to help our community grow. Don't forget to leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of this effort.